When I came up with the idea to grade every head coaching hire, I did not envision my Saints being involved with this video, but here we are. 9 NFL teams had to get new head coaches when the season was over. Some had to replace coaches that were fired, some had to replace coaches that resigned, and some had to replace coaches that retired. I would have done this last week, but I wanted to wait for the Vikings to officially announce their hire of Rams offensive coordinator Kevin O'Connell. But now they have, and I have no excuse to not grade every head coaching hire. Also, this is going to be different from my college football video for when I ranked every head coaching hire. Instead, I will be grading hires like A+ or F. I want to try something different, and I enjoyed this better than ranking college coaches. But before I grade every head coaching hire, 99% of you guys that watch my videos still are not subscribed. You guys can change that by subscribing to this channel and turning on the notification button so you will know when I upload videos. I would also love it if you guys gave this video a like. It helps my channel out a lot. Alright, let's get into it. The Denver Broncos have not made it to the playoffs since they won the Super Bowl in 2015. Since then, the Broncos have gone 39-58, fired 2 head coaches, haven't found a good quarterback since Peyton Manning retired, and has had some awful offenses. The offenses were so bad it forced the Broncos to hire an offensive-minded coach. That offensive-minded coach is Packers offensive coordinator Nathaniel Hackett. Nathaniel Hackett has been in the NFL as an assistant coach for many years and has had 3 different offensive coordinator stints with 3 different teams, which includes the Bills, Jaguars, and Packers. As an offensive coordinator, he's coached some really good run offenses at both Buffalo and Jacksonville. In 2017, when Jacksonville almost made it to the Super Bowl, he was a big reason for the Jaguars' surprise season, as Blake Bortles and Leonard Fournette had their best seasons ever under him. But the next season, Jacksonville's offense regressed and Hackett was fired, but he would find a job on the Packers staff as an offensive coordinator. He never called plays for them, but he helped build the offensive system there, and under his scheme, the Packers offense flourished, which helped produce amazing seasons from Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams. He also has really good connections with players at Green Bay. In fact, when he was hired, a lot of Packers players showed their support for him and were upset when he left. I know the players showing their support for their assistant coach doesn't mean that that coach will be a great head coach, but that to me shows that he was able to connect with players well, and the Broncos having a head coach that connects with players is not a bad thing at all. And plus, Aaron Rodgers has praised him many times and is known to have a really good relationship with Hackett, which of course has started a lot of speculation of, will Aaron Rodgers come to Denver, and did the Broncos only hire Hackett to get Rodgers? Now, I don't know if Rodgers will go to Denver or not, but regardless of what happens, Denver made a good hire in Nathaniel Hackett. Even though he was fired as an offensive coordinator in 2018 and hasn't called plays since then, I think he's a huge upgrade over Vic Fangio, and he's learned a lot under Matt LaFleur, and his offenses do really good with good talent, and the Broncos have some good talent on offense. Overall, I give this hire an A-. The Matt Nagy era was an interesting one. The Bears made it to the playoffs twice and won the NFC North once, but in that era, the Bears went 34-31 and 0-2 in the playoffs, and did not have any good offenses. The Bears weren't looking for a coach that was offensive or defensive-minded. They were looking for a leader, and they got one in Colts defensive coordinator Matt Eberflus. Now, I will admit I did say, "Who?" when I saw he was hired. Many people did not have any positive reactions to the Bears hiring a defensive-minded coach instead of an offensive-minded coach, since the Bears have second-year quarterback Justin Fields, who needs a coach that can help improve him. But remember what I said about the Bears coaching search in my "One Thing Every NFL Team Needs to Do" video. It doesn't necessarily have to be an offensive-minded coach. It could be a defensive-minded coach like Brian Flores. And maybe he can bring along an offensive coordinator that can help Fields a lot. Well, that is what happened. The Bears hired a defensive-minded coach, and Eberflus got himself a coach that will most likely help out with Fields' development by hiring Packers quarterback coach Luke Getsy as their new offensive coordinator. So that issue should be put to bed. But what has he done to earn the job? He has developed many players in the NFL and college as an assistant coach with the Missouri Tigers, Cowboys, and Colts. Look at this list. Some really good players on this list. I know I should have left Jalen Smith off this list, but Eberflus was a factor in Smith having a good first season in the NFL after missing a year due to an ACL tear. He also helped in the revival of Rolando McClain's career. Well, temporarily, but you get the point. Eberflus is a good player developer. He also coached some good defenses as the Colts Colts defensive coordinator and was a huge factor in the defensive turnaround in 2018. I mentioned earlier about the Bears getting a leader in Eberflus. He's considered by many to be a good leader, and he has demanded relentless effort from his players, which sounds like a coach many players would want to play for. He is also noted to have good attention to detail. While the defenses he coached were pretty good, they were never good enough to be considered a top 5 defense, and the only elite player he developed was Darius Leonard. My grade for this hire is a B. The Giants have not been able to find a right head coach after Tom Coughlin left them in 2015. Since he left, they have only made 1 playoff appearance, fired 3 head coaches, and the offense has been painful to watch. The development of Daniel Jones has not gone well, and many questions are surrounding him. So the Giants hired a guy that has a history of developing quarterbacks. Buffalo Bills offensive coordinator Brian Daboll. He was a hot name last year, but did not get hired. Now he finds a job as the Giants head coach. Daboll had a part in developing Josh Allen into the quarterback he is today, and many more players at Buffalo, and Stephon Diggs had arguably the 2 best years of his career. The Bills also had some great offenses, as they were a big part of the Bills' success over the last couple of years. He's also a guy that connects really well with players. Josh Allen, Devin Singletary, Dawson Knox, and Deion Dawkins all had great things to say about him. Stephon Diggs had something interesting to say about Daboll. I can tell you firsthand that Brian Daboll will never let anybody walk all over him. He's cool, but he ain't that cool. He's a tough guy. He's going to be hard on you, but he's going to give you that rope and tell you he trusts you. I don't think leadership will be a problem for Daboll and the Giants, but like every head coaching candidate, Daboll comes with some concerns, as he's had many bad stints with the Jets, Browns, Dolphins, and Chiefs as an assistant coach. He never really developed players like he did with the Bills, and 3 head coaches did get fired when he was on their staff. He was never retained by the new head coach, but I honestly think he learned a lot during his time with Belichick and Saban. I think he was not a good assistant coach back then, but I think he has improved as a coach as he's gotten older, and his time with the Bills proved that. The only negative thing that's going to stick with Daboll is the whole Brian Flores lawsuit. I'm not really going to get into all the Brian Flores lawsuit, because it's controversial and I know people have their opinions about it, so I'm just going to say that it's not a great look for the NFL or some teams involved in this. But regardless if Flores has a case or not, I think Daboll was a great hire. I give this hire an A+. The 2021 Raiders season was a wild one. John Gruden resigned, Henry Ruggs and Damon Arnett got in trouble, and they still made it to the playoffs. After they were eliminated in the playoffs, they were looking for a new head coach. They got themselves one, an ex-Broncos head coach and Patriots offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels. He has been an assistant coach for a long time under Bill Belichick and helped the Patriots win 6 Super Bowls and coach many great offenses, which included the NFL record-breaking offense in 2007 and the 2008 offense that was led by Matt Castle. He also developed many players during his time as a coach and has gotten praise from Mac Jones, saying, "I think Josh is not only a great coach, but a great person." But McDaniels has a lot of concerns, as he was the Broncos head coach from 2009 to 2010. It was a disastrous tenure, as he went 11-17, didn't have a lot of trust from his players, and mishandled a videotaping scandal. But I will say that he was very young at the time and probably wasn't ready for the job yet, as he did admit to this in his press conference. Then there is the fact that he backed out of the Colts head coaching jobs after accepting it, which is honestly scummy. And after that incident, the Pats offense was not great. The amount of Patriots fans that were celebrating the fact that McDaniels isn't on the team anymore says a lot. The hire wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible either. I give this hire a C. The Mike Zimmer era had some ups and a lot of downs, and the Vikings had enough of it, so they fired him and decided to look for a new coach. It was looking like they were going to get ex-49ers head coach and current Michigan head coach Jim Harbaugh, but that didn't happen. But luckily for them, they had a backup plan. Rams offensive coordinator Kevin O'Connell. O'Connell fits under the new wave of young offensive-minded coaches who are on a Sean McVay staff like Matt LaFleur and Zach Taylor. O'Connell never called plays, but just like Nathaniel Hackett, he designed offensive schemes and helped out a lot with game planning. Speaking of planning, when he was hired as the Rams offensive coordinator, he watched every snap of Jared Goff's first 3 years in the NFL. Seems like a guy that's not only dedicated to watching film, but looking to build an offense around the quarterback of the team. This year, his offense flourished with Matthew Stafford as his quarterback. Many other players like Cooper Kupp, Odell Beckham Jr., Robert Woods, and Gators legend Van Jefferson had tremendous years. He also seems like a guy that connects well with the players. But like I said earlier, every head coaching candidate has baggage. In his 7 years as an assistant coach, he never really did anything besides what he did with the Rams this year. Never developed any good quarterbacks as a quarterback coach for the Browns and the Commanders. I'm still not used to saying Washington Commanders. His only year as the offensive coordinator for Washington wasn't anything spectacular, and the 2020 Rams offense wasn't good either. In his defense though, building an offense around Jared Goff is a challenge. Now, he most likely grew a lot as a coach over the years, but I wonder if it's too soon for him to be a head coach. And let me set something straight. His age isn't a problem. The wave of young offensive-minded coaches has worked out so far. It's more of the fact that he hasn't been that great of an assistant, and I'm wondering if the Vikings jumped the gun too early on him, since he had his first successful season as an assistant coach. Overall, I give this hire a C-. Last year, the Jaguars hired Urban Meyer, and it was a huge disaster. It was so bad, he was fired after 13 games, which made him the first fired head coach of the 2021 season. John Gruden does not count since he resigned. The Jaguars had plenty of time to find a new head coach. Even though it was messy, the Jaguars found a head coach in ex-Eagles head coach Doug Pederson. Doug Pederson is the only hired coach in his coaching carousel to win the Super Bowl, and he won it with Nick Foles as his quarterback. He took the Eagles to the playoffs 3 times and won the NFC East twice. Carson Wentz looked like an MVP candidate after his rookie season. He also connects really well with players. Ex-Eagles and Jaguars tight end Clay Harbor, who played with Doug Pederson, said this: "Doug's one of those guys that you felt comfortable with. He would laugh, he would joke around with you. He was what you call a player's coach." So basically a complete opposite of Urban Meyer, a winning coach that can connect with players. I do have my concerns about him, however. The Eagles were not a good team post-Super Bowl victory, and Carson Wentz regressed after coming back from his ACL injury. Something I do wonder is how much of that is his fault. The Eagles front office has not been very good at making decisions over the years, and Wentz's regression might not have been Pederson's fault. There's a good chance that things changed for Wentz mentally after that injury. But now that he's with the Jaguars, he can prove to many people that he was not the problem at Philadelphia. But of course, Shad Khan's favorite person in the world, Trent Baalke, is still around, so we will see if he can still prove that he wasn't a problem. I give this hire a B. The Dolphins' decision to fire Brian Flores still has many people like me scratching their heads, but it doesn't matter if we think they made the right decision or not. They need to hire a new head coach, and they did just that, hiring 49ers offensive coordinator Mike McDaniel. He is the second and last young offensive-minded coach to be hired as a head coach in 2022, and the first person of color that was hired as a head coach in the coaching cycle. Before y'all say anything, he is biracial, so that statement is technically not false. He is well known for coaching good run offense with the 49ers as a run game coordinator. It was involved in how Daboll Samuel was utilized in 2021 as an offensive coordinator. He's also a smart guy as he is a Yale alumni. He seems like a chill guy, which should help out with the chemistry in the locker room, but I am concerned about his transition into head coaching as he's only had 1 year as an offensive coordinator and didn't call any plays. Besides the development of Daboll Samuel and coaching the 2019 49ers run offense, he didn't do anything special as an assistant coach. I do like his future in the NFL, but I think it is too soon for him to be a head coach, and he isn't an upgrade over Brian Flores. I give this hire a D+. This was the weirdest and messiest head coach search in 2022. The Texans had interviews with coaches like Hines Ward, who is currently a wide receiver coach for Florida Atlantic, and Josh McCown, who is currently a high school coach. But in the end, they ended up hiring ex-Bears, Buccaneers, and Illinois head coach, and their own defensive coordinator from last year, Lovie Smith. Did not think I would see him as a head coach again in the NFL, but here we are. Lovie Smith has a lot of head coaching experience in the NFL, and even led the Bears to the Super Bowl in 2006 and won 3 NFC North titles. He's a great leader and a respected head coach in the league, but there is a reason he is a ex-head coach. His record is not good. He did okay with the Bears, but his last 2 head coaching tenures were pretty awful, and his defense last year wasn't even good. Yet they hired the defensive coordinator from the coaching staff whose leader, David Culley, was fired. To me, the Texans were forced to hire Lovie Smith with all the controversy surrounding the Brian Flores lawsuit. I know they could have hired Flores to make things better, but they aren't going to hire someone actively suing the league. I believe even if Flores wasn't even suing the NFL, Josh McCown was going to be hired. Just a messy head coaching search by an incompetent organization. I give this hire a D-. And now for the last team to hire a head coach, my New Orleans Saints. Sean Payne stunned the football world when he announced his retirement after 16 years of being the Saints head coach. The Saints took their time with this one, and I can't blame them. You have to find the best replacement possible, and they found their guy. Ex-Raiders head coach and Saints defensive coordinator Dennis Allen. He has been a long-time assistant coach for the Saints, spending 12 seasons there, 6.5 of those seasons being defensive coordinator. As defensive coordinator, he coached many good defenses and turned around what was at the time one of the worst defenses in the league into one of the best. In his 12 years as a Saints coach, he developed a lot of talent, and I mean a lot. He's a good leader and well-respected coach by the Saints team, so leadership and chemistry should not be a problem. But there is the concern about his time as a head coach with the Raiders. It was really bad, but I think he was not ready for that job yet, and you could say he was not with a good organization. Sorry, Raiders fans. But now he gets to be the head coach of a team he's well familiar with. I think he's learned a lot from his first head coaching stint. Personally, as a Saints fan, I would have loved to have Eric Bieniemy as my head coach, but I don't really have a problem with this hire. I give this hire a B. And that is my grade for every NFL head coaching hire. If you agree or disagree with my grading, let me know in the comments. I want to hear everyone's thoughts on my grades. You guys have a fantastic day, and I will see you guys later. Peace.